When I opened the camera app on my phone at exactly noon, I watched my son Michael spread my property deeds across my desk while a lawyer in a gray suit pulled out forged documents. That's when I knew my only child was planning to steal everything I'd worked 65 years to build. My blood didn't just run cold, it froze solid in my veins. Let me back up a bit. My name's Richard Patterson, but everybody calls me Rich. I'm 65 years old, spent 28 years as a Phoenix police sergeant before I started my own security consulting business. You learn to notice things in police work, you know? Little details that don't add up. And that Tuesday morning when I walked into my home office, something felt wrong as hell. The filing cabinet drawer wasn't completely closed. Now, I always close that thing tight because the wood swells up in this Arizona heat and sticks like crazy if you leave it open even a crack. But there it was, sitting slightly ajar, just enough to catch my eye. I walked over real slow. My boots didn't make a sound on that hardwood floor. Old habits from the force, I guess. I pulled the drawer open and looked inside. The folders were all mixed up. My property deeds, which I keep organized by date at the front, were scattered around like someone had gone through them in a hurry. The deed for my ranch up in Flagstaff was behind the Phoenix House papers. The Scottsdale townhouse deed was stuffed way at the bottom. Someone had been going through my private business. I sat down in my old leather chair, the one my wife Barbara bought me 20 years ago, back when we were planning our retirement together, before the cancer took her 8 years back. God, I still miss that woman. She would have known what to do about this mess. Barbara always could read people better than I could. Me, I was good at catching the bad guys after they'd already done something wrong. She could spot trouble coming from a mile away. I looked around the room real careful-like. The family photos on the shelf seemed fine. My father's old pocket watch was sitting in its usual spot on the desk, but that small wooden box where I keep my will and insurance papers, that was facing the wrong direction. I always keep the latch pointing toward me so I can grab it quick if I need to. Now it was facing the window. My heart started beating faster. You know that feeling you get when you realize someone's been in your house? It's like being violated. I opened the box with shaky hands. The papers were still there, but they'd been unfolded and refolded. The creases were different, fresh. Someone had read through my personal documents, my will, my insurance policies, everything. Only 3 people had keys to this house: me, my son Michael, and my daughter-in-law Sarah. That's it, nobody else. Michael was 38, used to manage this upscale restaurant over in Scottsdale until it went belly up last year. Lost his shirt on that deal. Sarah was 35. Worked as some kind of marketing manager, but she had expensive taste, always buying designer this and designer that. They lived in one of those big houses in North Scottsdale with the pool and the 3-car garage, but I knew they were drowning in debt. Hell, I'd seen the credit card statements Michael left on my kitchen counter last Thanksgiving. The numbers made me sick to my stomach. I didn't want to believe it was them. I mean, this was my boy we're talking about, the kid I taught to shoot at the range when he was 12, the one who went fishing with me every Saturday morning before his mom got sick, the boy who broke down crying in my arms at Barbara's funeral and told me we'd have to take care of each other now. But the evidence was sitting right there in front of me. And if 28 years of police work taught me anything, it's that evidence doesn't lie. People do, but evidence tells the truth. Evidence, motive, opportunity, it was all there. They had the evidence of financial problems, the motive of my money, and the opportunity with those keys. I started thinking back to last Sunday dinner at their place. We were sitting out on their fancy patio eating steaks that Michael had grilled up. Sarah poured me another beer, Corona with a lime, which she remembered I liked, and gave me this sweet smile. "Dad," she said, "have you given any thought to your estate planning lately?" I looked up from cutting my steak. "What do you mean by that?" "Well, you know, you're getting older. Maybe it's time to think about simplifying things. You could sell the consulting business, maybe sell a property or two. Just enjoy your retirement." Michael jumped right in, nodding like his head was on a spring. "She's absolutely right, Dad. You've worked your tail off your whole life. You served your country in Vietnam, served the community for almost 30 years as a cop. You've earned the right to relax and let someone else worry about all the business stuff. I like my work," I told them. "Keeps my mind sharp, gives me something to do." Sarah leaned forward, putting her hand on my arm. "But Dad, At your age, things can change so fast. What if something happens to you? It would be so much easier for everyone if things were already organized and taken care of. Easier for everyone. Or easier for them. I should have caught that right then and there. But I just changed the subject and finished my dinner. Those words kept circling around in my head afterward, though, like vultures waiting for something to die. Now, sitting in my office with those messed up documents spread out in front of me, all the pieces started coming together. The questions about my estate, the comments about my age, the suggestion to simplify things. And now someone had been going through my private papers. I got up and walked over to the window. Outside, the desert sun was beating down on the saguaro cacti in my backyard, making the air shimmer like water. I'd built this house 15 years ago after Barbara and I moved out here from back east. Phoenix was supposed to be our dream retirement spot. Warm weather, low humidity, beautiful sunsets. The security consulting business was small but steady, and between that, my police pension, and the real estate investments, I was sitting on about $3 million. Not rich by Phoenix standards maybe, but comfortable enough. Thing is, I wasn't ready to give any of it up, and I sure as hell wasn't ready to be pushed aside by my own family. I picked up my phone and called Chuck, my neighbor for the past 10 years. Chuck Murphy was a fellow Vietnam vet, 73 years old but still sharp as a damn tack. If anyone would have noticed something off about my house, it'd be Chuck. The man had been watching the neighborhood like a hawk ever since his wife passed 3 years back. "Rich, how you doing?" he answered on the second ring. "Chuck, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Have you seen anyone coming to my house when I'm not around?" There was a pause that lasted too long. "Come over here, brother. We need to talk face to face." I walked next door, my boots crunching on the gravel driveway. Chuck opened his front door before I even knocked. Probably saw me coming through that front window of his. He led me straight to his kitchen and poured 2 cups of black coffee without asking if I wanted any. "That's military for you. Direct, no nonsense." I didn't want to say anything, he started, sitting down across from me at his kitchen table, because I wasn't sure what the hell I was looking at. "But your son and his wife have been showing up at your place quite a bit lately, always when you're at the office, and they've been bringing someone with them." My stomach dropped like a stone. "What kind of someone?" "Tall guy, maybe 50s, always wearing a gray suit, carries one of those fancy leather briefcases. Looks like a lawyer or some kind of business type." "How often we talking here?" "I'd say 3, maybe 4 times in the past couple weeks. They stay for an hour or 2 each time. I see them going in looking all serious and coming out looking like the cat that ate the canary, if you know what I mean." Chuck reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote down the license plate of that Mercedes he drives. Black sedan, one of those lawyer parking stickers in the front windshield. I took the paper. My hands were shaking just a little. "Thanks, Chuck. I owe you one." "Rich, whatever's going on here, you be careful. I've seen enough family drama in my years to know that blood relatives can cut you deeper than any stranger ever could." Those words hit me right in the gut. Chuck was right, and I knew it. The worst betrayals always come from the people you love most. I drove to my office and sat at my desk staring at that piece of paper with the license plate number. My assistant Carol took one look at me and knew something was wrong. "Boss, you look like you've seen a ghost. Everything all right?" "Just tired, Carol. Just tired." But tired wasn't the word for it. I felt like someone had sucker punched me in the chest and left me gasping for air. That afternoon I drove over to an electronics store on Camelback Road. 28 years of police work teaches you that if you want to catch someone in the act, you need evidence. And in this day and age, that means video evidence. The kid working there couldn't have been more than 20, all eager to help and show off his knowledge. "You want something for home security, sir?" "Something small, real small, something I can hide and connect to my phone." He showed me this little camera about the size of a matchbox, no bigger than my thumb. Wireless, motion-activated, stores everything in the cloud. Hell, technology these days. When I started as a cop, we were lucky if we had a decent radio in the patrol car. "This'll do the trick," the kid said, showing me how to set it up on my phone. "You can watch everything in real time or check the recordings later. Battery lasts about a week." I drove home and spent about an hour figuring out where to hide the thing. Finally settled on tucking it behind the family photo on my bookshelf, the one with Barbara, Michael, and me at the Grand Canyon from about 10 years ago. Back when we were still a real family. The The camera lens was completely invisible from that angle, but it could see my entire office, including the filing cabinet and desk. Then came the hard part. I had to set the trap. I called Michael, my own son, and I lied to him. "Hey, Michael, how's everything going?" "Hi, Dad." Good, good. Just the usual stuff. Work's been crazy. How about you?" "Well, that's actually why I'm calling. I wanted to let you know I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Heart specialist wants to run some tests." I could hear the concern in his voice, and for a second, it almost made me feel guilty about what I was doing. "Oh no, Dad, is everything okay? Do you want me to come with you?" No, it's just routine stuff. You know how it is when you get to be my age. They want to check everything twice. I'll probably be there most of the day, though. These medical places, they take forever. Are you sure you don't want me there? I can take the day off. I appreciate that, son. But there's no need. You've got your own life to worry about. I'll call you when I'm done and let you know how it went." "Okay, Dad. Take care of yourself. Love you." "Love you too, Michael." And I did love him. That was the hell of it. Even suspecting what I suspected, even with all the evidence pointing his way, I still loved that boy more than my own life. Maybe that's what made it hurt so damn much. I hung up the phone and sat there in my office for a long time, just looking at that family photo. Barbara smiling in the Arizona sunshine, her arm around Michael, who must have been about 25 then, before life got complicated, before money and debt and greed poisoned everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about when Michael was little, how he used to climb into bed with Barbara and me during thunderstorms, how proud he was the first time he caught a fish without my help, how he looked in his cap and gown at college graduation, and how Barbara cried happy tears because her boy was making something of himself. Where did I go wrong? When did teaching him to work hard and build something for himself turn into him thinking he was entitled to what I'd built? When did raising him to be independent become raising him to be greedy? Or maybe it wasn't my fault at all. Maybe some people just choose the easy path when things get tough, even if it means stepping on the people who love them most. The next morning, I got up at dawn and made myself some coffee. My hands were steady now. The plan was set. Time to see what my son was really made of. I left my house at 9 o'clock sharp the next morning, just like I'd told Michael. Drove to the hospital, parked in the lot, and sat there for about 10 minutes to make it look good in case anyone was watching. Then I circled back to my neighborhood and parked on a side street where I had a clear view of my house, but they couldn't spot my truck. The Arizona sun was already getting brutal, even at 10 in the morning. I rolled down the windows and waited. My stomach was churning like I'd swallowed a handful of gravel. Part of me was hoping, praying really, that nothing would happen, that maybe I was wrong about everything. But at 11:30, a silver BMW pulled right into my driveway, bold as you please. Michael got out first from the driver's side. Then Sarah climbed out of the passenger seat, and from the back came this tall guy in a gray suit, just like Chuck had described, carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than most people make in a month. They walked up to my front door like they owned the place. Michael used his key, the key I'd given him for emergencies, and they all went inside my house, the house Barbara and I had picked out together, the house where we'd planned to grow old. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and opened that camera app. The image was crystal clear, better than I'd expected. They were standing right there in my office, plain as day. Michael went straight to the filing cabinet like he knew exactly what he was looking for. He pulled out my property deeds and spread them across my desk like he was dealing cards. Sarah and the lawyer stood behind him, looking over his shoulder like vultures circling a kill. "Everything's here," Michael said, his voice coming through loud and clear on my phone's speaker. "The Phoenix house, the Flagstaff Ranch, the Scottsdale townhouse, all the business documents." The lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. "Perfect. I've prepared the power of attorney documents and the guardianship petition. Once we get his signature on these, you'll have complete control over his assets." Sarah picked up the deed to my Flagstaff Ranch, the place where Barbara and I used to go to escape the city heat. This property alone is worth $620,000. The Phoenix house has to be at least $850,000 in this market. "And the business," Michael added, "we can sell that for $1.2 million, easy. Maybe more to the right buyer." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. These people, my own family, were talking about selling off everything I'd worked for my entire life like it was some kind of garage sale. "Are you sure he'll sign?" the lawyer asked. "These kinds of situations can get complicated if the subject resists." Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. a cold, calculating sound I'd never heard from her before. He doesn't have a choice. We've got Dr. Williams lined up to certify that Dad's showing signs of dementia, memory loss, confusion, poor judgment. Once we have that medical assessment, the court will approve our guardianship petition. But what if he fights it? The lawyer pressed. Michael waved his hand dismissively. He's 65 years old, living alone, clearly not managing his affairs properly. We'll present it as a loving family, trying to protect an aging parent. The court sees this stuff every day. My blood was boiling now. Not managing my affairs? I'd built a successful business, maintained 3 properties, and kept myself in better shape than most men half my age. And they wanted to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my life's work. I watched them for another 20 minutes, documenting every word, every document they touched. They talked about timelines and strategies like they were planning a military campaign. They discussed which assets to sell first and how to liquidate my business quickly. They talked about me like I was already dead. When they finally left, I sat in my truck for another hour, shaking with rage and heartbreak. Not just anger, pure, devastating heartbreak. This was my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised to be better than this. I drove straight to Paul Thompson's law office downtown. Paul had been my union attorney back in my police days, and he'd handled all my real estate deals over the years. If anyone could help me, it was Paul. "Rich, Jesus, you look like hell," he said when I walked into his office. "What's going on?" I showed him the video on my phone. He watched the whole thing twice, his expression getting darker with each viewing. "This is criminal fraud, Rich. Elder abuse, conspiracy, forgery. They're looking at serious prison time if we can prove this in court." "What do I do, Paul? These are my kids we're talking about." Paul leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. "First thing, we protect your assets. I can set up an irrevocable trust by tomorrow morning. Everything goes into the trust. Your house, the ranch, the business, everything. Even if they somehow get guardianship over you personally, they won't be able to touch the trust assets. But there's another option," he continued. "We let them go through with their plan and catch them red-handed. Right now, they could claim they were just discussing possibilities. But if they actually file those fraudulent documents in court, if they try to execute this scheme, that's when we nail them with ironclad evidence." Over the next week, I kept that camera running 24/7. Michael and Sarah came back twice more, each time with their lawyer, each time refining their plan. I heard them set a specific date. "Next Thursday," Sarah said during their final meeting. "That's when Dr. Williams files his assessment. Friday morning, we go to court for the emergency guardianship hearing. By Friday afternoon, we'll have complete control." I called Paul immediately. "Thursday. They're making their move Thursday." "Good. I've already talked to the district attorney's office. They'll have detectives standing by. We're going to let them walk right into our trap." Wednesday night, Michael called me. "Hey, Dad, how'd the doctor's appointment go yesterday? I've been worried about you." The casual concern in his voice made me sick to my stomach. Here he was, pretending to care about my health while planning to rob me blind. "Oh, you know how these things go. Lots of tests, lots of waiting around. Everything okay, though? Doctor wants to run a few more tests, but nothing to worry about." "That's good to hear. Listen, Dad, I was wondering if we could meet for lunch tomorrow. There are some things Sarah and I want to talk to you about." My heart started pounding. This was it. The final play. "Sure, son. Where do you want to meet? How about that steakhouse downtown, the one Mom used to love? Say, 1 o'clock, the steakhouse where Barbara and I celebrated our anniversary every year. Of course, that's where he'd choose to betray me." "I'll be there," I said. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and looked at the photo of Barbara on the refrigerator. "I'm sorry, honey," I whispered to her picture. "I tried to raise him right. I really tried. But sometimes, despite your best efforts, despite all the love you pour into someone, they choose the darkness anyway." Tomorrow I'd find out exactly what kind of man my son had become. I arrived at that steakhouse downtown at 12:50, just like always. Military habits die hard. You show up early, you assess the situation, you prepare for whatever's coming. Michael was already there, sitting at a table by the window, wearing a smile that used to warm my heart. Now it just made me feel cold inside. I sat down across from him, my phone recording every word in my shirt pocket. "Hi, son. Dad, thanks for coming. I know you've been through a lot with all those doctor visits." He reached across the table and took my hand. just like he used to do when he was little and wanted to tell me something important. The gesture almost broke my heart. Dad, Sarah and I have been talking and we're really worried about you. You seem tired lately, maybe a little forgetful. We think it might be time for you to slow down and let us help take care of things. I kept my face neutral, even though inside I was screaming. What kind of things, Michael? Well, maybe it's time to sell the consulting business. All that stress can't be good for your heart. And that big house, it's too much for you to maintain alone. There are some really nice retirement communities here in Phoenix. Places with golf courses, activities, people your own age, and my properties. Sarah leaned forward, jumping into the conversation. We could help you liquidate those assets and put the money into a trust for your care. That way you wouldn't have to worry about managing everything yourself. I looked at both of them, these two people I'd welcomed into my family, who'd sat at my dinner table, who'd hugged me at Barbara's funeral, and promised we'd always be there for each other. Sounds like you've got it all figured out, I said quietly. Michael's smile wavered just a bit. Dad, we're only thinking about what's best for you. Are you? Or are you thinking about what's best for you and that $180,000 in gambling debts you've racked up? The color drained from his face. Sarah's mouth dropped open. How did you... 28 years as a cop, Michael. You learn to investigate things. You learn to follow paper trails. And you learn when people are lying to your face. Michael pulled his hand back like I'd burned him. Dad, you're confused. We're trying to help you. Help me? By having Dr. Williams declare me incompetent? By filing fraudulent guardianship papers? By selling my life's work to pay for your mistakes? Sarah started to stand up, but I kept talking. I know about the lawyer. I know about your little meetings in my office. I know about everything, because I've been watching you, recording you. For a moment, neither of them said a word. Then Michael's expression changed completely. The loving sun mask slipped away, and I saw what was really underneath. Cold calculation. Pure greed. Fine, he said, his voice flat and hard. You want to play games, old man? We can play games. By tomorrow morning, you'll be declared legally incompetent whether you like it or not. The paperwork's already filed. The court hearing is at 9:00 a.m. and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. You'd really do this to your own father? Sarah laughed bitterly. You have millions of dollars just sitting there while we're drowning in debt. You're selfish, stubborn, and too old to appreciate what you have anyway. Michael nodded. We deserve that money more than you do. We're young, we have plans, we have dreams. All you do is sit in that house feeling sorry for yourself because Mom's gone. That last comment hit me like a physical blow. Bringing Barbara into this, using her memory against me, that was lower than I'd thought even he could go. I stood up from the table. You made your choice, son. Now you get to live with it. I walked out of that restaurant and drove straight home. That night, I called Paul one last time. Tomorrow morning, 9:00 a.m. They're going for it. We'll be ready, Rich. Justice is coming. The next morning, I arrived at the downtown courthouse at 8:30. Paul was waiting for me with 2 detectives from the fraud division. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. We watched through the courtroom window as Michael's lawyer addressed Judge Martinez, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd seen every kind of family dispute you could imagine. Your Honor, we're here requesting emergency guardianship over Richard Patterson. Mr. Patterson is 65 years old and showing clear signs of cognitive decline. We're asking that his son Michael be appointed as his legal guardian. Is Mr. Patterson present? The judge asked. No, Your Honor. Given his mental state, we felt it best not to inform him of these proceedings. That was our cue. Paul pushed open those courtroom doors, and I walked in behind him with those detectives right beside me. Your Honor, Paul announced, I'm Paul Thompson, representing Richard Patterson. Mr. Patterson is very much present, very much competent, and very much aware of what's happening here. Michael spun around in his seat, his face going white as a sheet. Sarah looked like she'd seen a ghost. What the hell are you doing here? Michael hissed. I walked right up to the front of that courtroom, exercising my constitutional right to defend myself against fraud. Paul handed the judge a folder full of evidence. Your Honor, this petition is based entirely on fabricated documents and fraudulent medical assessments. We have video and audio evidence of these individuals conspiring to steal Mr. Patterson's assets through forged power of attorney documents. Judge Martinez examined our evidence, her expression getting harder by the minute. If these allegations are true, we're looking at serious criminal charges. She looked up at the detectives. Arrest them. All of them. Fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, and perjury. I watched as they put handcuffs on my son. Michael was crying by then, begging me to help him, telling me he was sorry, that he didn't mean it. But it was too late for sorry. Some lines, once you cross them, you can never go back. 3 months later, at the trial, Michael got 4 years in state prison. Sarah got 5 because she'd been the one coordinating with the lawyer. The lawyer himself got disbarred and sentenced to 2 years. Standing outside that courthouse after the sentencing, I felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory, just a deep, hollow sadness that would probably never completely go away. 2 years have passed since then. I still live in the same house, still run my consulting business, though Carol handles most of the day-to-day operations now. Chuck and I have dinner together most evenings, 2 old soldiers watching out for each other. I sold the Scottsdale townhouse. Too many memories of family gatherings that turned out to be lies. But I kept the house and the Flagstaff Ranch. Places Barbara and I chose together, places where her memory lives on. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in my office and look at that family photo on the shelf, Michael as a little boy before life got complicated, before greed poisoned everything good between us. I wonder where I went wrong, what I could have done differently. But maybe some people are just wired to take the easy path, even if it means destroying the people who love them. I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about loyalty, trust, and honor. Chuck's more family to me now than my own son ever was. And sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who hurt you worst. But I also learned that a man who won't fight for what's his isn't much of a man at all. I fought, I won, and I can look at myself in the mirror every morning knowing I did the right thing, even if it cost me everything that mattered. That has to be enough, because it's all I've got left.